Hello, I am Ariane. This is Book Zealot, and this is my October wrap-up. What did I get read, and a few that I didn't, that were on my TBR. But I went down a rabbit hole. So this is my second time recording this because last night I recorded it and I was in a hurry, and while I was editing it, I felt like I was a 4-year-old on sugar or red dye 40. Hope that doesn't get censored. So YouTube has been acting very strangely lately. People are just now receiving comments from me that are quite old, and I received 2 comments from a year ago. They weren't in my held for review section. Okay, so 3 books that I did not get read that were on my TBR is The Minister's Wooing by Harriet Beecher Stowe. I did not get to We Too by Gillian Gill. And I did not get to Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell. I know a lot of people were reading this, but wasn't the read-along for the mayor of Casterbridge? Anyway, next Victober, hopefully. Now, after, I have 2 books put away. Okay, I had a buddy read, thank you, Awhona, thank you. Far from the Madding Crowd, this was the first time I read a Thomas Hardy book, and it was bizarre, very well written. Thomas Hardy's writing reminds me of Charles Dickens. I haven't read enough of Thomas Hardy to say which one I like better. I've read a lot more of Dickens. The main character, well actually there's 2 main characters, Bathsheba, whom I did not like her character. She used men atrociously and was just very cavalier about it. And I definitely preferred the male protagonist, and I don't remember his name at this point. Dude, how have I forgotten his name? I don't know. And after I read that, I read The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy, and this will also be a keeper. The first chapter in this is shocking, especially in today's standards. I use that term loosely. And I will leave a link to Janelle at Too Fond of Books, who does a video. Only check it out if you've read this book or you don't care about spoilers. She went down a rabbit hole of researching what happens in this book, and amazing. So I'll link her information down below. This was good. Then after that, I read Victoria by Daisy Goodwin. I know there's a movie, and I said for the TBR video, I hadn't seen it. I didn't think I had seen it, but apparently I have. Not only that, apparently we own it. I can't tell you the last time we've seen a movie, or let alone have watched this. I mean, we like documentaries, we like biographies, we like DVDs like that, but honestly I can't remember the last time I watched it. Obviously I forgot we had it. I do have a question though for anyone who lives in England or a British, is it called Commonwealth? I don't think they're called territories anymore, right? I have a question because on page 160 of this book, during Queen Victoria's reign, it is mentioned that monarch power was a facade. So if that was true then, I guess I have 2 questions. What is it now? And my second question is, why even bother? Why even have one? I hope that doesn't offend anyone. I'm curious. Okay, now I did read 2 library books that I don't have with me. I'll insert pictures. Well, I'll have a card. How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith. And I found out about that book on Alex Black's channel. I'll link her information below. She always does amazing reviews for books that she doesn't even like, but she did like that book. I, on the other hand, did not. The writing is well done, but I think Clint Smith is a very privileged American, especially after reading A Long Way Gone by Ishmael Beah. And this young man, I think, is approximately the same age as Clint Smith. This is a phenomenal book and really put things into perspective with the other book, which made me dislike it even more. A couple of reasons. Okay. How the Word is Passed. He claimed that one of the tour guides for one of the locations that he was at was leaving information out and thereby misleading people. That's exactly how I felt about Clint Smith's book. I can't mention all of the things wrong with it here on YouTube because I'm censored. I do, however, have a website, and I will write a review because I currently have 7.5 pages of notes. I'll try and condense it because that's way too long. However, the other library book that I read is The Last Year of the War by Susan Meissner. I think that's the first Susan Meissner book I've ever read. I do know that she has a couple of books that are very popular on BookTube. I haven't read them. So it was good. It was interesting. It's emotional. I did cry. And maybe that's just because of my age and reading about these women who were friends and then they're forced apart, and things could have been handled so much better. Anyway, so I did go down a rabbit hole of Clint Smith's book, How the Word is Passed, and came across a book that I have actually owned for a very long time. Now, mind you, I did go through the system. I was told the exact same lies as everyone else. Half-truths. Twisted truths. Okay, so this book, Slavery, sit down, was not the cause of the war between the states. The Irrefutable Argument by Gene Kizer Jr. I have a lot of blue tabs, which means I researched a lot of his footnotes. And what I liked about this is he uses the historical records of the people who wrote the information. So if President Buchanan wrote something or was quoted, it was from something that he wrote, or something about Abraham Lincoln from someone's diary who had that conversation with him. Apparently diary writing wasn't shared among men back then. I don't know. Anyway, it was very good. Obviously, there was a lot that I researched because okay, where were we? Okay, so if your mind is exploding, good. You need to read this book because we should always get two sides of the story. And so I have heard there are 3 sides of the story. There is one side, and then the other side, and then the truth. And isn't that the truth? So, it's good to know both sides. Now, having been a student in the public school system, having been a parent of the public school system, having been a volunteer of the public school system, having been a paraeducator in the public school system, I know which side is taught. It's not this side. So I highly recommend this book. So far that's two books, although I would recommend Hardy for sure. And then these top two books. Let's see, is that all of them? Let's see, I did, oh, okay. Well, I have another one, so I'll insert a card. I had another buddy read. Thank you, Linda. Please post a video. Holy Transformation by Chip Ingram. And that is a reread for me. It felt as though I caught a lot more this time around as an older Christian, and I felt for sure I would unhaul it. I don't need to hang on to it until the very last chapter. The very last chapter is why I'm keeping that book, because no matter how long you've been a Christian, or no matter how much you think you are a good person, there's always room for growth. Always room for growth. So, ouch! And then the last one that I slid in at the very last moment because Overdrive popped up and said I had an audio available. I read Clay's Quilt by Silas House. I have had this book a very long time. Too long. And it is basically about a boy who loses his mother. It's Clay. Clay loses his mother at a very early age. He's raised by his family in the Appalachia in Kentucky, which, interestingly enough, I found out that one of the highways that I am near used to be called Daniel Boone's Parkway, and it used to be a toll road, which really would have made me angry. I do believe that this title is not a good title. Quilts have very little to do with this book. The ending felt extremely rushed. It's not even Clay's quilt. I don't want to give too much information, but it doesn't make Appalachia people look very good. So there is smoking, drugs, alcohol, cussing, using God's name as a cuss, spousal abuse, superstition, premarital sex, and adultery, and okay, anyway, I'm glad I read it so that I can unhaul it. If you've read this book, what did you think of it? I wasn't impressed. Silas House writes well, but I wasn't impressed with the story. I don't know what the hype was. Now, I do know that he is compared to Lee Smith, and I have some books by Lee Smith, which I also need to read. The Story of My Life, which is why I love having a library, because my books need to be read. Yay! So I read 9 books and did not read 3 of the books that I had. And I'm also behind on the Dickens Along Pickwick papers because I started it and I just didn't care. It didn't make any sense to me. It was a hodgepodge hot mess. And people keep saying, push through it, which is usually how Dickens books are. So there you have it. That's what I've read. 9 books for October. I had 2 buddy reads. I'm behind on Dickens Along. I don't even care. Sorry. And that one book, Clint Smith book, which put me on a rabbit trail researching the Southern voice, the Southern side, since we never hear it. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. And hopefully this video gets published because YouTube's been doing some weird things. Please, if you ever leave me a comment and I don't comment within a week, I didn't get your comment. Because yesterday I received 2 comments that were a year old. One from a booktuber and the other from a viewer. I wouldn't ignore you. even if I disagree with your comment, I'm still going to respond, okay? So please contact me on Goodreads or contact me via Gmail, because I'm not ignoring you. It's because I didn't get your comment. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. And please check to see if you're still subscribed, because that's a problem on YouTube. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you are not having these issues. I hope you had a fabulous October reading month. And who's ready to dive into Nonfiction November? I am. Thank you very much for stopping by. Leave a comment below. Hope you have a great month. Bye. You can probably hear my Balboa chime in the background. I'm sorry. 10 o'clock.